Hello. That was an exciting kickoff. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's fantastic to see this turnout. I love it. Yesterday was a great day. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to today. But I got to start by thanking Alex, for one. I love that intro. But I also want to thank A3. This room, this group of people, we are the heartbeat of the United States. And you should all take credit for that. 100%. We drive the innovation, we make the products the industry needs, all industry needs, and it's fantastic for our country. A3 is doing exceptional work. 50 years of supporting industrial robotics and automation, building this community, again, which is such an important community. So let's give them a round of applause. And I have to say, their passion for this industry is what excites me. Because I got to tell you, I have the same passion. So you heard from the intro, I'm from Detroit, born and raised, and hopefully you saw Detroit shine during the draft, set the record, awesome, go Detroit. But this, does anyone know what this is? Diego Rivera, fantastic. So if you get a chance and you're in Detroit and you got a little bit of time, I would urge you to go to the Detroit Institute of Arts. It's a magical place. The reason I tell you that is I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I got to go on a school field trip. And this is what I saw right when I walked in. It stopped me in my tracks, even as a little kid. I'm not a creative person. I'm not super artistic. My son is. I'm not. But I walked into that room, and I thought, wow, what's behind this? This is amazing. You look at the imagery in this thing. So it got me curious. Started asking teachers a lot of questions. And over the years, it started to all come together for me. And candidly, I'm the son of immigrants, just like so many people in Detroit are. This industry is what drew them to our city. Just like this city, it's a melting pot of people. Our industry needs to take credit for that. That was the draw. The manufacturing renaissance that was happening in the Midwest, in Detroit, was the draw for so many people. And the fact is, manufacturing doesn't just create manufacturing jobs. It has a multiplier effect on our community. Now, I'm a little older than A3. So I got to see a lot as I was growing up. And so we saw what happened throughout the 70s. We had a shift in automotive, and we started to see plants shut down. It broke our hearts in Detroit because we saw what happened. Detroit was spread out. It was really built around these manufacturing plants. When that industry left, massive changes hit our community. It's coming back, folks. It's coming back. But it's going to come back in a different way. We have such an opportunity to take that prominent position back as the heart of manufacturing globally. And in a job like ours, we get to see what's going on all around the world. And we've seen other countries and continents really lean into this manufacturing sector. This is our time. This is our time. I would tell you that we have some of the most innovative minds in the world right here in our great country. We have an opportunity to take an amazing leadership position when we look at these capabilities. And you're going to hear a lot about digitalization. You already do. You're going to hear all the buzzwords. But it's up to each of us to dig a little deeper and understand what it means and what the impact is and what impact each and every one of us can have on our industries. So I am proud to work for Siemens. I was part of this box right here. Siemens has an amazing history. I would call it a startup back in the mid-1800s. Started in a garage in Berlin. Whole focus was on innovation and technology and technological development. But you can see, in 1959, Siemens released the first industrial control system, 65 years ago. But think about it. That industry hasn't changed that much. Processing speed has gotten it faster, but there's so much opportunity yet to be gained. But I want to draw attention to that box from 2007. Something happened there, but before I go into it, I wanted to show you something.
Is he going to go inverted? Oh, my goodness. Look at this! Oh. He's hanging upside down. He's just upside down.
So why is this so special? I'll tell you why it was special. So this is a show I used to watch all the time. Contestant after contestant after contestant fell. And you're all smart science, math people. You can see what happens. You go from the small ball, you can grip it. You go to the next one, it's larger. You can still grip it. You go to that third one, your grip strength, it's lower. So your gravity's taking you down, your grip strength's not as strong, you fall. This guy watched people fail, person after person after person, and he said, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to draw you back to Siemens, because in 2007, we had an individual that said, I'm going to do this differently. He was accustomed to running a business on the industrial capabilities on the shop floor, and he saw something in a software demonstration. He said, that is going to change the industry. And at that time, he led the single largest software acquisition in history. $3.5 billion to acquire this company, UGS. But you can see what's happened since. So remember when I talk about this idea of digitalization, digitalization requires you to dig deeper, because this company that I work for has invested billions of dollars of digging deeper and figuring out all the components that need to be brought together to really harness the value of what digitalization can truly bring. And now I think we're seeing the fruits of that. And so you can see a graphic like this, and you can look at what it's talking about. It's talking about the idea of combining the virtual and the real. And the rest of what I'm going to talk about is the foundation is this right here. Because when you can do that, the way that data flows throughout this whole life cycle is clean, it drives high fidelity, and it's what industry needs to deal with the changes that are facing industry every day. And this is the game changer to what we have ahead of us, and why I showed that the future is extremely bright for us. How many of you are manufacturers? I'm assuming all. I would expect all the hands to go up. It's a great sector, clearly a great sector. But the fact is, there's been a ton of money pumped into manufacturing in the United States over the last several years. A couple $1 trillion from our government has gone in to support manufacturing in some form or capacity. Another $650 billion has been put in by private sector. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of investment. That's why I'm excited about the future. The fact is, we spend a lot of time talking about greenfield. But we all know from wherever you live, brownfields are the heartbeat of this country. Greenfields are great. You can start with a clean sheet of paper, take all those learnings and apply them. But the fact is, not everything's going to be greenfield. We need to address brownfield. And I've been in this industry a long time. I can tell you right now, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was a lot of work to convince companies to lean in this digitalization space. It's not now. There's not a board of directors out there that's not pushing every executive to identify what their digitalization strategy is. That is what applies here when we talk about brownfields and what needs to happen. I was in a meeting with a customer, and we were having a really good conversation. And this woman in the corner, whose whole focus was transformation, stopped the room with a comment she made. She made it specifically to me. She said, listen, I love what you guys do, but make no mistake, what I need is technology that I can adopt at the speed of relevancy. It stuck with me. Everyone on my team is probably sick of me saying it, but I'm going to remind them every chance I get. We talk about speed of software. I love this because this means customer purpose. This is saying something. Think about that brownfield case I was talking about. Yes, technology is fantastic, but guess what? I'm still building product every day. So when you give me technology, what you can't do is stop my line. You need to give me technology that I can apply in my environment and do what I need to do and do it better, to do it faster, to do it better quality, and to do it cheaper. Because it's not enough to adopt it for the sake of adopting it. That stuck with me. And that is a mission statement as far as I'm concerned. And this is a prime example. So BorgWarner is one of the top 25 Tier 1 automotive suppliers. Long history with them. Know a lot of the executive team there. Know a lot of people throughout the organization. Honestly, they came to us with a challenge. They said, look, we're on a sustainability path here. And we realized we made declarations to the industry, and the problem is the time it takes to collect data off the shop floor of our energy usage is killing us. It's killing us. So they had talked to a multitude of vendors, and they were getting very complex solutions, solutions that were at least going to take 3 years. Imagine that. They've made declarations they were going to achieve by 2030, and then here they get a proposal that's going to take over 3 years just to pull the data you need to understand what's in front of you. Not acceptable. So we rolled up our sleeves, we worked with them. Super proud to say, we were able to put together a solution with them, leveraging ecosystem, that we ended up rolling out to 70+ facilities in under 6 months. Now, what's fascinating about this is no two facilities were the same. And this wasn't like we're saying strip out everything and go with Siemens. We're saying we're going to leverage what you have, exactly what I talked about in that Brownfield challenge. But we were able to instrument every machine on every line across these 70 plants. Again, no two plants the same, and we were able to do it in under 6 months. So if you think of product depth and breadth and really understanding of where you're at as opposed to where you want to be, you adapt the technology to what the customer needs. That's what we were able to do. And I'm really proud of the team for what they were able to do. And now we're working as partners in the ecosystem. Traditional competitors, we're all working together for the good of what this company's trying to do to assist in sustainability. And by the way, this 8% energy consumption savings, that was just along for the ride when we instrumented this system for them. But what I really love about this is the 80% time reduction in data collection. Data collection for us should not be a barrier of entry. It should be something that's automatic when we think about where we're at on this path of digitalization. So super exciting project. I think a lot of opportunity with that. So anyone know who this guy is? I'm sure you do. He's changed all of our lives with this. And in 2007, at the end of June, he announced this. He announced the iPhone. And I'll tell you, I travel a lot lighter. I can't imagine traveling with a binder, with a music device, with a camera, then the phone. Instead, he combined it all. But was it the physical device that changed our lives? I would tell you it wasn't. I would tell you it was the platform ecosystem that they developed. It started off, we were attracted by accessing all this music. We took our iPod, we moved it to the iPhone, then all of a sudden the camera got better and better, then all of a sudden all your Microsoft functions rolled over, then everything rolled in. They set up an ecosystem where companies and innovators all over the world can contribute with apps, and our lives changed. Maybe a little too far, because I don't think there's a minute available where I'm not expected to work, especially working for a global company, so emails are always expected to be responded to because of that darn phone. But the point is, that ecosystem was an amazing invention by Apple, and it changed everything. Interesting enough, 15 years to the day later, our CEO, Roland Busch, announced Siemens Accelerator. And I would tell you, there are similarities in what Siemens Accelerator is looking to do to what the iPhone did. Clearly, it's not the iPhone, but it is a collection of portfolio elements that are going to leverage an ecosystem to bring to you what you need, because there are real challenges to solve here. So when we look at this, and this is a Forrester and HBR report, but you look at some of these obstacles. The first one is what scares me the most. We can identify something that needs to be done to improve what we're doing, but the barriers to do it are so great we choose not to. Let that sink in. We're all held accountable to get better and better every day, but there's a situation where the act of getting better is such a hurdle to overcome, we choose not to. That has to change. And so we have to focus on this idea of easy. And so you can see your environments are complex. It would have been very difficult for BorgWarner if we said replace all this stuff. We didn't. We said, look, you've made this investment, we'll be flexible, we'll adapt to your environment. And so that was a huge thing for them. And then the idea of open ecosystem. We have to leverage everything that's being developed out there for your benefit. What we can't say is we're closed off and you got to use everything end to end. No company can do that. That's not going to take any of us where we need to go, and that's not going to move the US forward in manufacturing. So these were the challenges. So this is exactly what we look to address with Siemens Accelerator. I showed you that slide of acquisitions. We are constantly looking for acquisitions that's going to move that goal forward in terms of putting together that portfolio of products that addresses the needs across a multitude of industries and a multitude of functions. The ecosystem is imperative, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit in terms of the why. There's some amazing technology out there. We need to be able to adopt it in our portfolio with the speed of relevancy that I talked about earlier. And finally, a marketplace. There should be no barriers to entry in how you're going to access this information or access these systems. But ultimately, what we're looking to do is this. So if you're familiar with the ISA 95 protocols, this is a complex environment for enterprises. So we've got all these upfront IT systems that will do requirements definition, build out a bill of materials of what the product's going to consist of, all the engineering capability that's in there, how that's going to transform to a bill of process definition virtually before I build anything. From bill of process, I need to move into a manufacturing execution system. My manufacturing execution system is going to communicate through SCADA. It's going to get to automation. It's going to control what happens on the shop floor. And of course, I need service when I think about sustainability. This overall end-to-end set of processes and capabilities is what the driver is for us. But I don't want to lose sight of that word in the middle. It says simulate. I would tell you, when you embrace simulation, it's like if you got a genie and said, my first wish is give me a crystal ball. I want to be able to look back in the past and see why something happened the way it did. I want to be able to look forward and see what are the possibilities in front of me. When you have a proper digital twin and you have the right set of simulation capabilities, what you can do, what you can identify with intelligence is pretty much limitless at this point. The compute power is significant. There are optimizers that I can set up these models and I can run iteration after iteration. This gives you insight into what the art of the possible is like never before. And actually, I'll talk about some things that I think are even more exciting for the future. So this is the foundation. When I show you portfolio, this is what we're working towards. And our job will never be done. But the way we need to engage on this is through what we talk about with digital threads. Now, I will tell you, without question, a lot of people are out talking about digital threads. That's why I told you it's upon all of us to dig a little deeper when we hear this type of, these phrases being thrown around. So digital threads is a connected set of capabilities, but what's more important about digital threads is they sit on process definition. So those processes in all of your businesses need to be understood. And by the way, it's difficult to understand them if they're not in the context of the industries that they're being applied to. So this is a lot of work. And I'll tell you, coupled with a lot of people in our organization, we said, no, this is our purpose. This is what we need to do. We needed to take all the resources in the organization and point them to this direction. Because when I talked about speed of relevancy, the fastest way to do that is to figure out how that technology needs to be applied to you where you're at, as opposed to you coming to where the technology is. And the way we're going to do that is through digital threads. Now, ultimately, this is the value. Scale at your pace. Because we built this out on a set of processes defined, we interrogate the processes. We can do a maturity assessment on top of that and see where you're at today. Where do you need to go? What are the weak spots? And a lot of people in manufacturing, what did you do? You chase the bottleneck. You solve the bottleneck. By solving the bottleneck, you create the next bottleneck. The same theories apply to running an organization. So as we improve an area, we're going to see what's the next area of slowdown and inefficiency that we can attack. And that's the approach here. By having this visibility, by having this roadmap, I can look right, I can look left. There's tremendous, tremendous power in that, to the point now, when I go to an alignment meeting with the customer, we're doing our reviews off the digital thread maturity with them. Their teams have been built for digital thread execution. Because if the users can't use it and they can't deliver value, there's no point in doing it. Technology is an enabler. So I want to just quickly go through an example. It's a virtual commissioning example. And so in a case like this, Technology is imperative. Again, I told you I grew up in Detroit. I started off in the industry. I remember the days of trying to flip a switch and run a factory from a partner perspective. And those who have done it, you've had to lose, working 24/7. You're losing weekends to try to get start of production to full production. And that was a difficult process. From the vehicle producer's perspective, that's lost revenue. I mean, every minute lost in getting a car to come out the line is just tons of dollars being thrown away. One of the more important areas of the industry is this. Virtual commissioning really drove that effectively. And so a case like this, where a cell is built up and you have a lot of robot functions going, you have a case where you discover that, hey, I laid this out, it looked effective at the time, but now we're having movement problems. It takes forever for the workers to walk around the way we have the cell created. Ideally, we could add a gate. You would choose to add the gate. Now I got an ingress-egress problem. And if my worker goes into that gate, I have a real safety concern. We can solve that. We can solve that with code, because it's the same code that's going to operate that machinery when it gets put out on the floor. And so we simulate everything on there. We make sure that there's a safety protocols put in. That gate opens, machines stop. Fantastic. What's important about this is we know with such fidelity that that code is going to work, that when we go to implement that, we know it's not a code issue. It's going to be something else. It's going to be a one-dimensional problem. There's going to be something mechanical that got missed, but we know the code will work. We have that much confidence because this is the same code that's going to operate the machines. That's a huge advancement. That's a huge advancement. That's a huge time savings. And the fact is, you're solving a safety problem before it actually occurs. Very important in a shop floor environment. So we don't have a moment of terror in that case. Now, what's fascinating is, if we look at it today, because of virtual controllers, before, we would have to literally move that code. Even though the code was fantastic, we'd still have to physically install it on the shop floor. Now, between virtual controllers, we can take those virtual assets and move them as a code base and automatically commission that line. Again, every one of these things is time savings. These things can work in an existing environment. You don't have to revamp the environment. That's getting to that speed of relevancy, but we're getting quality savings, we're addressing safety. These are the ways we can implement and initiate effective changes without sitting back and saying, that's too hard to do. I can't do that. Not only can I move that code over, I can have a closed loop. I can literally have these environments running side by side. It's, again, the same code that's going to operate in this digital world. We can see side by side what's happening. So if something does come up, we can retrace everything with the data and understand exactly how we need to use that data going forward. All right, so we just went through an interesting time, most unique time I can remember being out there. How many of you had to purchase something and you knew you were ordering way more than you needed, but supply chain disruptions were so bad you didn't have a choice? There should be a lot of hands up, because I know what it did to my business model. We had a boon for the last few years, and then all that product was out there. You had to do it. Industry had to do it. They had to order those components because they didn't know how long it was going to take. And by the way, you ordered them from multiple vendors, because whoever could get it to you first is what you needed to keep running. The fact is, those are physical devices. What about a world where they're not physical devices? What if they're virtual code base? Are you going to have the same supplier disruption issues? Because I know electrons are not a bottleneck from a supply chain factor. So the power of this is multifold. A lot of cases, you had to order parts 6, 9 months, a year in advance. You may have to order a controller, PLC that far in advance. The fact is, things change. What if your production changed? What if you had a change in a product? You may have ordered a device that you didn't even need by the time you got it. It's a lot different in this environment. We can update that logic. We can update that runtime. This is going to be a different environment for us. We talk about lean. We talk about sustainability, by the way. You can predict the benefits there too. So really exciting things in terms of speed and flexibility. How many have walked a plant and seen this? A ton of labor sitting in a particular cell, updating that cell, putting new code, out there with a PC, out there with a memory stick, doing this work. I remember walking a plant, I'm like, why are there 50 bicycles in this area? Because the plant's huge. The workers had to get to the workstations, so they grabbed a bike, they'd go out. Another safety issue with all the material handling going on in a plant. But that's the way work was done. There's got to be a better way. So imagine having a central area where I can move these programs, I can move it to a particular cell, validate it works, and then overnight I can batch upload and update all the machines. That's far different than getting on a bike, one machine by one machine, one cell by one cell, and updating them. Huge potential here. That's why I said this is an exciting time. And then we all know about the worker shortage. We all know about it. It's clear. Skilled workers are exiting the workforce here. What are we going to do? What if we can drive that efficiency that we can leverage? Because one of the burgeoning areas is IT. So if we take things that we have a much smaller resource pool and we open it up to a much broader resource pool, still get the same function done, that's a huge win for us, because this is an available workforce for us. So these are the things that we're working on to, as I said, make this an exciting time where there's not going to be an obstacle we can't overcome. We have a phrase that we like to use in Siemens, technology with a purpose. These are some obvious purposes for us that we're going to continue to focus on. So super proud and excited to announce the Somatic Automation Workstation. What I just talked to you about, this is an amazing down payment on. And I got to thank Ford Motor Company. We worked with them over the last couple of years on this. This is, and hopefully you get a chance to go over to the Siemens booth and see it, but this is a single device with a combination of multiple. So we get to take and instantiate on the edge the HMI and the controller on this industrial operating system. So those benefits I just talked to you about get achieved through this single interface. And so this now can get implemented at a cell and operate that cell with, like I said, 3 devices in one. That thing I described to you with this centralized edge management is here. So when we go ahead and update a particular work cell, prove it out, we can update all of them. So if you get a chance, go check it out. Super excited about it. The fact is, we're not going to do this alone. When you talk about open, talk about ecosystem, talk about marketplace, some amazing, amazing technologies being developed out there. But you build stuff. Do you want to be experts in the latest and greatest technology, or do you just want to consume it and build stuff? I would say consume it and build stuff. Let us take these challenges on, which is what we're doing. So pretty awesome stuff. You can see amazing partnership with AWS. A lot of our capabilities on Siemens Accelerator are cloud-based. So a lot of it's hosted on AWS, hosted on Azure. So you can see those partnerships. One of the things we just did with AWS, we announced at CES beginning of the year, is they have a technology called Bedrock. It allows embedding machine learning and AI. We've incorporated that into our low-code platform. So for those who don't know what low-code is, instead of designing multitude of lines of code to create a software application, you can basically design it iconic drag and drop. You're looking at the behavior of the app. All the individual coding you don't need to do. Now you can incorporate ML and AI. You can leverage the power of those things without having to build your own large language model, which most companies don't have the resources to do. So really exciting partnership with AWS. NVIDIA, we all know NVIDIA. I'm the idiot who didn't buy the stock. I'm sure a lot of you did, so kudos to you. I'm the moron. But you saw how photorealistic some of those AVIs I played. Hopefully you realize those are industrial metaverse AVIs. So that's how clean and crisp the graphics are with the full kinematic motion. But what's powerful about it is all the physics behind it. That's based on real code. And that's pretty awesome, thanks to our partnership with NVIDIA. Sony, we announced The immersive goggles, they're coming out soon. It's going to change. I was on a panel for Northrop Grumman, and we were talking, and they said, what's 5 years going to be? I said, 5 years is going to be awesome. We adopt these technologies. We're going to leverage the creativity of the workforce, because with things like Gen AI and leveraging these Sony goggles, I can be in a design environment globally, and I could be interacting with voice. We could be manipulating a model. We could be experimenting on different ideas, and generative AI is not going to care about function. It's not going to care if you're a designer, a process engineer, a production person from the floor. You can all collaborate in this environment. Different languages won't matter. That is really, really cool. Think of how that expands the opportunity for the workforce. And so I'm going to talk about Microsoft here in a little bit. But you can see what we're doing. And then we work with solution partners on the bottom. So again, we can address all these industries I showed you. But we can bring the best to you regardless of industry. I'm particularly passionate about this. I spend a lot of my time in the academic sector, not just universities, vocational schools, work with STEM for kids. We try to get tech democratized as much as possible. I would challenge everyone in this room on this. It's a shame from that story in the mid-'70s when I got to walk into the DIA and I saw work, the imagery of work, people working together to do things. Amazing book if you haven't read it. It's called Freedom's Forged. Really tells a lot about this country and why this country achieved the prowess it did. And for me, it was great because a lot of it happened in Detroit, but it put us on the map with World War II. So fascinating read. But workers had a purpose, and somehow that got lost. It's tough to get people attracted to manufacturing. I would say we all need to be on a mission here, because this is one of the more exciting places you can work. Just walk that floor. Why do you go to the East Coast or West Coast for tech? Walk the floor. The most amazing tech in the world is out there. Why wouldn't people be attracted to this as the future? All these people that want to make a difference, tell them what make a difference really means. Attract them to this environment. It's clean, it's collaborative, it's innovative, it's challenging, and it's going to make the world a better place. It already has. We all need to do our part. I don't have a nephew or niece, as bright as they are, that have picked engineering for some reason. They all picked business school. Get rich quick. I don't know what the motivation is. People seem to be afraid of it. But this is a fascinating place. Engineering is going to meet creativity in this world. You're going to be able to interact with the machine through dialogue. That is really cool. The world they're used to working in is going to run our factories. So let's do our job. Let's do our part. I know we're trying. We could use as many people as we can to help with this. Our country needs it. I think it's going to be awesome for us. To that end, I kept talking about Siemens Accelerator. This is our partnership with Microsoft. We call it Siemens Industrial Copilot. This is pretty awesome. How many of you use ChatGPT? Plan a vacation, figure out what you want to buy your significant other. I've yet to do that. I'm terrible with it. But this, pretty cool. I want to show you, give you a little insight into what this is. So talk about leveraging AI. Big scary thing. Obviously, we've seen an explosion of AI here recently. Companies are trying to figure out, what do I do with this? How do I make my organization better? Let me give you a really good example. So I need to do something. I need to program something. I need to add a function. I need to add a process step on the floor. Instead of the way I would do it now, organizing a team, figure out how I'm going to rewrite all this code, you can basically open up this Siemens Industrial Copilot for engineering. I could be in a remote site, and I want to say I want to add this function. I'm going to go grab it. I find a PDF with the function. I cut and paste. And by the way, I don't even need to do it. The generative AI can grab it itself. But for illustration purposes, wanted you to see it. We go ahead and move the code in here. Now it's going to consume. It says, great, I added the function for you. What's next? Well, you know what? I got this naming convention. I want to get rid of this P1.1. I want to rename it. OK, illustrate, boom, type it in. Industrial Copilot gets rid of the naming. It updates the whole document. Something that would have taken a tremendous amount of time to do manually. Now I'm going to say that, look, I have a quality concern. I have 2 steps. I want 3. I need to add rework. It's going to be much more efficient with the product I need to do, or the process I need to execute. Say, type it in, done. It adds a step. It's a validated model. That's powerful stuff. So we can spend our time falling in love with technology for the sake of the technology, or we can adopt it to achieve what I talked about with the speed of relevancy. This is speed of relevancy. I can put these changes in, I can improve what I'm doing, I could do it quickly, I could do it effectively, and I could do it pretty much error-free. So that's what we need to expect. This is why I'm telling you it's imperative we dig into the details of what it is we need to do so we can make the impact we all need to make. So what's all this leading up to? Hopefully you know a little bit about Siemens. I gave you an overview of what we're about, what our mission is here. I will tell you this. Siemens is a very large company, and like many of you, we make stuff. We make good stuff, and we want to make the best stuff. And what we do, and the reason this technology is so important, and I talk about it with the passion I talk about it with, is because we use the stuff. So I'm going to show you a video. This isn't a pretty cartoon. This is actually the video that was used before we did a plant refresh. We did this with the industrial metaverse. We had the digital model built. This represents the actual code base in every machine you see. It's shortened because we went out with virtual imagery equipment in a virtual environment, interrogated every cell to make sure we were going to get the performance, the safety factors that we needed. We knew how the AGVs would run through the facility. We had all the code. We knew exactly what we were going to do from throughput. All of this got modeled in this environment. I'm showing you a snapshot. I could have showed you a multitude of customer ones, but I think it's important. You know, we have a simple leadership philosophy. Don't preach to the organization what you're not willing to do yourself. It's no different for us in Siemens. We're not going to go espouse technology that we don't consume ourselves. So I think it's imperative that we're right here shoulder to shoulder with you, and hopefully you got a flavor of where we're trying to drive this. So with that, I want to thank you. I do invite you guys to come to the Siemens booth if you haven't seen it. A lot of what I just showed you, you'd be able to see. And again, when I talk about energy, the folks we have work in that booth are super energetic, and they're extremely excited to talk to you about whether it's virtual PLC, the Somatic Automation Workstation, whether you want to hear about industrial Copilot, some amazing things around cyber in the booth that they would love to walk you through, both applicable today and where we see it going in the future. So you got a ton to see. Full immersion in digital threads, by the way. Really impressive area. You can walk through digital threads, check out some different industries. So with that, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to talking to you.